inside of the functions, we have another concept called arbitrary keywords and arbitrary keyword arguments, and we use it with double asterisks. And the concept is the same as the concept we had for keywords here, which we didn't know the length of all of these inputs. But here the difference is that we have a keyword instead of an input. So for example, it's a kind of a dictionary with keys and values, and we give a key here inside a function, but we might get a number of other keys as well. But inside the function, we only want one or a number of those keys. So let me just write an example for you to get a better insight. So for example, we have def, and we can call it deferred function, and here the arguments that we have gets 2 asterisks. So the asterisk is called kw args, and here, but instead of kw args, you can write anything else. So for example, I can write argument, for example. Doesn't really matter what you put in as an input, and you can print these, for example, just like the one we had in the last function, the second or I can instead write the height of the player is, and then just like this one, we can write colon, and then we can write plus, and then here we get an input which is argument, but the argument, we don't exactly know which part of it that we want, so we can write argument, and then inside of it we can refer to the key that we're looking for, which is the height. So height, and it's going to determine the height. This is a key that we're going to input to the function next to other keys that are not necessary but may be used for other functions. So here we can write print, actually we can write third function because we have a print inside of it. So function, and here we can give it a number of keys and values. For example, name, I can write the name of the player. For example, can be, for example, Robert. And notice that name and other keys do not have any kind of quotation mark, but if they're not defined yet, you need to put it in there, and between the keys you need to have the commas as well. I can go directly to the height. Also, I can write other things like last name, and then Robert, Jason, and then I can write height. So height was with a small letter, so height, and in front of it I can write any other numbers. For example, I can write 184. So there we go. Let's see if this one has any kind of problem. So Python 3 functions.py. So here we've got a problem, and probably it's because of the quotation that I've put in here. So here we need to remove the quotation marks. Also, instead of a colon, you should use equal, and after fixing all of them, notice that 184 should also be a string, because here we've considered it as a string, so it has to be. Anyway, after fixing all of them, which I hope there are no more problems, as you can see, we have the height of the player is 184, and these two are related to the other functions that we had. So here we've used the keyword or KW argument, arbitrary keyword arguments, which we use 2 asterisks for them, and there could be any number of keys and values, and here we can just get any one of these arguments that we want from the function. So for example, here I can write name, and there we go. And actually here the name of the player is Robert. So this one helps us to get any number of arguments that we want from the input of the functions, given its inputs. So we could have a lot of inputs, we can paste it inside the parentheses or arguments or inputs of the function, and then the function will process it and get the kind of argument that it wants using the keys from this kind of dictionary. But it's not a dictionary, okay? Dictionaries have strings and they have columns, but here we have variables and we have equals. So it's different from a dictionary, but it is something like a dictionary. Now the next thing we're going to talk about functions is the default values. So we can give the functions default values, and using these default values, whenever we have no arguments, when we call the function with no arguments, then it will consider that argument to be the default value. So for example, we have def sport, and inside of it we have an argument, for example, favorite sport equals football, and then inside of the function I can print out my favorite sport is plus. Then here we can write the favorite sport. So the default value is football. So if we call the function, it will return football for us. Here you can write sport, and inside the parentheses you can write nothing. So if I run this code, as you can see, my favorite sport is football. But if I write something else, for example, baseball, as you can see, it says that my favorite sport is baseball. And the reason that we have football here is because we had this one as well. So let me comment it out and rerun it. As you can see, my favorite sport is baseball. And here we don't have football. If I comment this one and run sport, and then in parentheses I write any kind of other sport, for example golf, and then as you can see we have golf. Or I can write any other sport that you may like, basketball instead of this one, and there we go, basketball. And again, if you write nothing, you'll get the default value. So by writing the name of the sport, you won't have the default value, but by giving it a value, then it won't follow the default value.